Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're looking at a game from 1977 from Bad Lauterberg with the white pieces Anthony Miles, first British Grandmaster, and with the black pieces, yes, Miles-Gligoric, longtime friend of Bobby Fischer with the black pieces. And what we're going to talk about today is the transition of one advantage to the other. All right, and we're going to be using this Ponziani opening as an example. So Anthony Miles was one of those grandmasters that from time to time would play some unorthodox openings. He's famous for his famous St. George defense game against Anatoly Karpov, where he won with the move uh, A6, a famous game. And from time to time, he would play these kind of offbeat systems. So here we had this Ponziani opening. What to say about it? I mean, it's real old school. Idea is, of course, to build a formidable pawn center with the C3 and D4. Of course, the knock on this opening right off the bat is that it fails to put any pressure on Black's center. So therefore, Black can just do what he wants to do right on move two. Okay. For you newbies out there, what do I mean by putting pressure on Black center? Well, for instance, the tried and tested move Bishop B5 already threatens to eliminate this bishop here and immediately puts pressure on the E pawn. Okay, because if this knight is gone, then in theory we could take this pawn. Now, of course, we have tons and tons of theory in the Roy Lopez where White has to bide his time in actually being able to capture this pawn. Okay, but the idea is that this move puts pressure on the pawn. That's why this move has always been regarded as the strongest move that White can play in this position. Okay, even Bishop C4 does not put pressure on the Black center, and Black is able to choose from a plethora of moves. Okay, and C3 falls into that category where there's no pressure put on Black, so Black can basically do what he wants to do in choosing a decent continuation. All right, and I think C3 is even inferior, of course, to Bishop C4 because at least Bishop C4 is bringing another piece out and prepares castling. C3 just merely plans to make a big pawn center at the D4 and then subsequently also blocks the best square for the knight. There's different ways Black often answers. In this game, Gligoric has played the simple move knight f6, simple and effective. D5 is also possible. Again, not worried about the queen coming to D5 after the capture because there's no knight that can come here to attack the queen. So C3 was played, knight f6, and now D4. Knight takes E4. Black attacks the center immediately. D5 and knight B8. And knight takes E5 is played. So now let's get into our lesson. The first thing I want to talk about is, the first advantage I want to talk about that comes up in the game is space. So we see here Anthony Miles has more space in the position. Everything else is equal. Okay, so that's the first thing we're gonna mention. He has more space, and space is something that you have to take seriously. All right, you can't just say, "Oh, everything else is good. He has more space," because as the game continues toward the end, space can be very important as the kings, are marching up the board and trying to infiltrate the territory. Sometimes pawn sacrifices are possible, okay, because the pawns are so far advanced, and you have to be very careful when allowing your opponent to have a lot of space. There's just more options on the board when your opponent has more space. So I just want you to notice that this is the first advantage really that White has on the board. Is it enough to win at this point? Of course not, but just keep that in mind. Another thing I want to mention is this opening is kind of trappy. I mean, the traps are real simple, but I'll just show you a couple just so you can know what I'm saying. So after d5, knight b8, right? This is all normal. Miles played knight takes e5 in the game, so he just, he didn't play for any traps. Of course, Gligoric went falling to him anyway. But at the knight b8, a move like bishop e3 can be played. And here's like an example of a primitive trap that you could fall into. So for instance, d6 loses immediately to queen a4 check, right? King is open, and then the knight is hanging there, right? It's been known to occur. So of course, you would have to play a move like bishop d6 there, or you could play queen e7, which guards both guard the pawn, and you're not exposed to the check here. Another idea after bishop e3 is black will sometimes play f6 in order to try to guard this pawn, to keep this pawn. And this is another trap. Knight takes e5, f takes e5, queen a5 check, and if king e7, queen takes e5, just regaining the piece. And if g6, it's even worse, because now you can pick up the rook in the corner. All right. This is all revolving around the idea of trying to protect this e pawn here. So just some examples there. Knight takes e5 was played by Miles, so now he has a space advantage. And now I want you to see how black deals with the situation, the space advantage. Okay, so queen d4, d6, pieces are traded off, right? Offering the endgame immediately. And now we have this situation where white just has more space. Again, is he winning? No. But this is an advantage. Okay, if white can say get it more another advantage or in the position, right? Then perhaps he can start playing for a win. But this is a start. And this is the reason why sometimes grandmasters will play these kind of openings. They will avoid preparation of the opponent and get him into unfamiliar territory and just kind of grind down in these type of dry looking positions, right? Kind of like Magnus Carlsen, kind of like what Magnus Carlsen does sometimes, right? They'll play some, opening like the Trompowsky or Kali system, and then get some position like this, and then just work and work and work, and eventually the opponent makes a mistake. So here, space is what Miles has, but nothing more than that. Now focus on how Gligoric deals with it. So knight d7, bishop e3, knight f6 attacking the bishop, bishop g4 again, more trades. And Gligoric is doing a good job here, right? Trying to neutralize neutralize white here. King d7, preparing to bring the rook over. c4, rook e8 check. King d2, and now rook e4 attacking the bishop. King d3, rook f4, f3, knight e5 check. King c3, and now you can see black is finally addressing the space advantage. All right, c6. Notice now the transfer of one advantage to the next. So Miles transfers his space advantage, right? He can no longer keep the pawn on d5, but now black has an isolated pawn. All right, so that's the law of advantages right there, is that you never want to just give up an advantage or lose advantage. You want to transfer one thing to the next. So you might have space, right, for example, and then just like here in the game, it went from space advantage to a structural advantage, right? Formed the isolated pawn. Now black has these pawn islands all of a sudden. All right, so white still has something to play for in the position, right? He just didn't flat out just lose the space advantage, and that was it. Again, it's only one weakness, so is it enough for white to win? No, but it's something for white to play for. So let's see how black deals with this now. So, and of course, he went into this variation on purpose and knows that he have an isolated pawn. Now by rook f5, he's already preparing to deal with this second scenario, which is the isolated pawn, a d2 and d5. So immediately liquidating the pawn. So now we have this almost symmetrical position here, and now black has dealt with the space advantage of white, and he's dealt with the isolated pawn. So now black is pretty much out of the, out of, not out of danger, so to speak, but just out of, those early troubles. Okay, so now the only thing I see in the position is that white is a bit headed, slightly headed in development, right? His pieces, are better here. Okay, so that's kind of like the last frontier for black now to basically draw the game. Maybe you could trade off some more pieces, and then these guys can shake hands. So let's see how the game continued. So king c7, bishop f2. So now you can see some scenarios where the bishop might swing to g3, right? Annoying the black king here, right? Keeping him from tucking himself away in the corner. Bishop b4 check. So black is now addressing development, getting his pieces out. King b3. Okay, and now along the same line of developing the pieces, Gligoric plays the move rook e8. Now, if you want, you can pause the video here and try to figure out what Grandmaster Miles played here. At this point, black has all his pieces out. All right, the position is pretty much symmetrical, and it looks like a comfortable equality. But like I say in all my videos, tactics reigns supreme, right? And then after that is position. Okay, so all moves must be tactically sound. So the greatest plans, right, have to be supported by tactics, right? So here I already explained to you the plan of black, whereby after he dealt with those advantages that white had, one being space, two being the isolated pawn, and the final frontier was to finish his development, right? Catch up in development, which he's done, right? That's a great plan. However, was it tactically sound? So if you want, like I said, you can pause the video, and now we're going to go on. So the answer, of course, is no, it was not tactically sound. That's why I brought up the issue. Here, the problem is this unprotected rook right here, knight e3, and it allows white to threaten this fork here of knight d5 check, okay, against the king and the bishop here, and that leads to the downfall, the immediate downfall in the position for black. The proper move here is to exercise a little bit more patience here. And I'm not saying Gligoric was rushing. He just overlooked it. But bishop c5 is just fine. Of course, bishop g3 check, king c8, rook h1, and then move like f6 here. All right, and you can see again, white has like this, little initiative here. Slightly better pieces, etc. Another option instead of bishop c5 is just bishop e7. Again, you can play a3, for example. Bring the rook out, trade some pieces. And that's another idea. Again, in the same spirit of things. Okay, and again, white's pieces are a little better, but again, is that enough? Probably not. So here, Gligoric just walks into a trap here. Seems that everything is good, and this is another point that I like to make, is a lot of times when you presenting your opponent with problems throughout the game, and he has to solve one problem after the next, That takes a lot of energy. And sometimes when he feels like he's finally solved all of the problems, that's when the mistake happens. Because he's, stressed out mentally just from solving all the little problems that you're throwing at him. Then finally he's like, whew, okay, I got rid of the isolated pawn. There's no more space advantage. All right, all I got to do is just get my pieces out, trade off and, you know, just get this draw. And then boom, that's when you make the mistake. Because at the wall, right, that rook looks great on e8. You know, he gets his final piece out. He's ready to, penetrate the position. I mean, what more can you ask for? Well, the only thing I can ask for is that the move be tactically sound. So at the knight e3, attacking the rook g5, right? And black is kind of busted here at this point. Knight d5, king c8, and he just drops a piece in the ignominious manner. Knight takes b4, rook takes g2, rook d2 just protecting the bishop, knight d4 check, and Gligoric tries, to make something happen here in form of compensation, but no dice here. Rook c1 check, and then just simply brutality on the board. Bishop takes a7 check, exposing the rook on g2. That's picked up. g6, rook f1, knight e5, rook e1, pin him and win him tactics, rook e6, and then just simply king b3, and Gligoric resigned. So amazing game because it was so quiet and serene, and then just one move, the top just blew off like a volcano, and the game was over just like that. It went from just this quiet positional game where it seemed like it's drifting to a draw, and Gligoric made one one error, and just like that, the game was over. So we already pretty much recapped the major points of the game. We talked about the space advantage at the beginning. We talked about the isolated pawn. And we talked about black being behind in development. Okay, and then we also talked about tactics being king. So black did a great job dealing with the problems in the position until the very end. He just made a tactical oversight. So does that justify the Ponziani opening, who you see that at frequently at grandmaster level? No, you would not, because again, black can equalize easily, and of course, it had nothing to do with the opening. But nevertheless, also note that Ponziani does have some traps in it, so you can try it out. Remember, again, does not put any pressure on the center, so black can pretty much do what he needs to do to equalize in the position. So, again, without further ado, appreciate you watching my videos. Please comment below and subscribe and all of that good stuff. Check the links below. Please support and donate to my channel, and also check the links for DVDs/books related to the opening presented on the board today, which is the Ponziani opening. And I'll see you guys on the next video.